Okay, let's go. So apparently only 5 in 10,000 startups raise money from investors. Fundraising is such a mystical process for so many founders I've spoken to. In fact, a lot of them don't even know that it's a thing you can do. And even if they do know about it, they think it's something completely unobtainable for them. I raised $2 million from investors for my startup Carter, and ever since then, I've had a ton of founders come and ask me, hey Danny, how the hell did you raise the money? How did you get in touch with investors like Mark Cuban and Sean Puri? How did you set up meetings? What did you say in those meetings? The concept of raising hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars to start your business is so alien to most founders. I'm going to lay out exactly how we went from deciding we were going to raise money to actually have $2 million land in our company bank account. Carter is a startup that makes AI apps for gamers, and when we first started, we both put 150 quid each into a bank account, got started, and we actually made our first product and got our first 1,000 users with that money. We met up in a Starbucks and I was like, dude, I think it might be a really good idea if we consider raising some investor money. If we really want this to be like a huge company, it would be fantastic if we had like, I don't know, a couple 100,000 or $1 million to spend on growth and product and building a team and actually make this like a legit thing. So that's exactly what we decided to do. We were like, right, let's try and raise $1 million. Let's get into the actual process of how you go about raising money from scratch. When you talk to an investor, the first thing that they will usually ask you for, especially a tech investor, is something called a pitch deck. Think of a pitch deck as the story of your startup told in slideshow format. You should try and stay within the 10 to 12 slide range, at most 15. This changes from business to business. If you're doing some pharmaceutical company or a biotech startup or something, maybe you do want some more information on clinical trials or whatever. But for the vast majority of you doing sort of consumer or B2B SaaS companies, you kind of want to be that company that stands out because they're punchy, they get to the point, they have a great story, and they don't waffle. I had just finished making the deck, and then I was like, right, who do I talk to? Who do I talk to now? I didn't have any resources that I could immediately go to and be like, hey, can you introduce me to so-and-so? They are investors already. I didn't have any of that. I thought, okay, what resources do I have at my disposal? What skills do I have to generate investor leads on my own? The thing that I resulted in is I can write a damn good cold email. I'm very, very good at writing an email to a stranger and having them actually read it and respond. So that's what I decided to do. I decided to do this entire fundraise off the back of cold email. Now, if you're in a similar boat to what I was in, where you don't have an existing network of investors that you can just start talking to, just be prepared that this is a very high output and very high rejection game. You're going to get dozens, if not, or like in our case, you're going to get over 100 rejections before you get one investor to say yes. So the first email was the introductory email. The first one that I'm going to send to an investor who doesn't know who I am, I don't know who they are. This is the email to try and get at least one toe in the door where they come back and they say, hey, can you send me your pitch deck? Or hey, I'd love to book a 15-minute meeting with you. For that first email, it was maybe 50 to 100 words that I actually templated, but I spent absolutely ages, days of time writing this email. Each sentence, each word in a sentence, I was like, okay, does this incite a positive emotion or a negative emotion? Does this make somebody feel energetic and want to actually book a call with me? Does this add some mystery? If the investor had not replied to the first email, what I wanted to do in the second email was say, hey, really sorry, just needed to reach out again because the numbers that I sent you in the first email are now out of date. We've actually grown more and we've got this many more users and we've launched this many new features, whatever. So the purpose of that second email was to not say, hey, please talk to me. It was to say, hey, look, something is going on here. This Carter business, we are moving fast. We are making improvements every single day. You kind of want to talk to us right now because if we stay on this trajectory, you're going to miss out on a massively fantastic company to invest in. Now I have my pitch deck. I've got my email template set up. It's time to actually find investors to speak to. I created this Google Sheet and I literally populated it with any venture capitalist, angel investor, tech investor, celebrity, rich person, somebody that looks like they have money. I literally populated it with everybody that I could possibly find on the internet that could be remotely interested in investing in Carter. For each investor that I put in my list, I wanted to do a little bit of digging on that investor, find out what other companies they've invested in, some notes that you would only be able to find out if you've actually done your homework on that person. That is what I used to draft that one sentence of personalization in that first email. I thought at the time, damn, I've done all of this upfront work. This is going to go swimmingly. It's going to go fantastic. I'm going to get so many emails coming in. I'm going to get so many meetings booked. That did not happen. Here comes the Muppet mistake number one that I made. I started emailing investors in the third week of August. They don't work in August. They are in the Hamptons or they're surfing somewhere. Basically, if you're trying to raise money, do not try and raise money in either August or December. I restarted the fundraising process, I think in the second week of September. And this was a lot better. I was getting far fewer out of office emails. I was starting starting to get the first few responses. We were still a really long way away from securing an investment, but at least I was now talking to real people and slowly starting to wedge my foot in the door. We were getting 2 months into the fundraise, 3 months into the fundraise. I had left my old job to go full-time on this startup. I wasn't earning a salary. Rent was due every single month. So I just quit my job. It sounds really weird. I'm just out on a walk at the moment. What I didn't quite anticipate was just how many rejections we were going to get. You could actually think things are going really well with a particular investor. You've had a bunch of calls, you met the rest of their team, and then they can just ghost you. They can just like stop responding. Now, there's one really, really crucial thing that I did when it comes to handling rejection, and that is you have to keep cool, calm, and collected. It would have been so easy for me to respond in a really emotionally charged way to an investor, but instead I kept incredibly respectful, incredibly polite. I'd respond to them saying, thanks a lot for your time. I really appreciate you looking into our business. And I really did actually value and learn a lot from our conversations. By the way, if you do know any investors that Carter would be a better fit for, would it be too much to ask for an introduction to those investors? Now, when I sent those super polite, respectful emails back after the VC rejected us, the VC looked at it and was like, damn, he's handled this really, really well. He's not let the emotions get the better of him. I actually do want to help these guys out. They're pretty cool and I do like what they're doing. It's not the right investment for us, but yeah, of course I'll introduce these guys to another investor. Actually, I know a buddy of mine who runs a VC firm who would be a much better fit for these guys. And those introductions came from being a calm, collected person in the face of rejection. There's actually a really, really important point to make here, which is nobody wants to be the first one to commit to a startup. Investors are super, super skittish to commit to investing in your business. What if nobody else does and I am now locked into investing in this one startup? But the second you get an investor that's like, right, I do want to invest in you guys. Here is my commitment. Here is a term sheet. All of these other investors that maybe previously said no, they come out of the woodworks and they're like, no, guys, I actually do want to invest in you. So it was kind of this story of nothing and then everything with no in between. So after all of this work and all of this time and all of this rejection, 4 months into our fundraise, we finally get a term sheet for a lead investor. And after all of this work trying to raise $1 million, we actually ended up raising $2 million. We actually said no to over £1 million of further investment from other investors that wanted to jump in. Things can change really, really fast in the process of a fundraise. And usually that change point happens when you get a term sheet from a lead investor. I remember going through the paperwork and my bank account at the time had nothing in it. And I was just waiting for the day for the first amount of investment money to come into the account so I could pay myself the first paycheck in December, just coming up to Christmas. And then I was at a traffic light and I see this notification come through from our company bank account saying that this inordinate amount of money has just landed in our account. I pulled over on the side of the road and I cried. Like I literally wept. This is like 4 or 5 months from when we decided that we were going to raise. It's like 7 months since my last paycheck from my job that I left. I had already memorized how much I should pay myself for the first paycheck. And I immediately wired myself the money then and there while I was pulled over on the side of the road. And I was like, tears were falling on my phone because I was like, oh my God, I can eat meat. Like, I got out of the car, my hazards were on. I went to an ATM that was just down the road. I pulled out the first £10 note and that was the first £10 that Carter has paid me. And actually, this is that £10. That's, I don't know if you can see it there. That is that £10 note that I pulled out from the ATM. The biggest takeaways from this fundraising journey that I'm going to leave you with in this video are, number one, whenever you start something from scratch, especially something really hard, just expect it to take way longer to achieve than you initially thought. I thought this fundraiser was going to be done within a month or two. It was actually more than twice as long to get the money over the line. You also are likely going to have to put in way more effort than you initially thought you would have to put in. And that's just part and parcel of doing something hard. Number two, you have to keep cool, calm, and collected under pressure. Each rejection made me feel worse and worse about myself. Like I'm just not going to be able to achieve this. This is going to be a failure. I chose to keep a level of professionalism, and that massively benefited the outcome of this fundraise because investors were like, damn, these guys actually seem pretty great to work with. They're very respectful. They're very kind. Of course, I'm going to introduce them to other investors that could potentially be interested in them. And it was from those introductions that we actually found the investors that did invest in us. Finally, number three, don't count yourself out. When Hugh and I had that conversation in Starbucks, we very easily could have been like, okay, I think we should raise $1 million, but who actually does that? Nobody really does that. It's such low success rate. 5 in 10,000 startups actually raise money. Let's not even try this. I'm really happy that we didn't count ourselves out immediately and we were a little bit obnoxious and a little bit naive. If you're thinking about raising money, or frankly, if you're thinking about doing anything hard, don't count yourself out too fast. You never know. It might just work. Thanks a lot for watching. If you have any questions or want to follow up deep dive on any part of what I've covered, please do drop a comment down below. And thank you to everybody that does hit the subscribe button. It helps way more than you think. And with that, until next time, GG.